This video is going to show you how to begin the Rainbow in a Ring pattern by Luwu Designs. For the ring you will need DMC Perlé 8, which is a very thick thread which comes in a multitude of colours, a 20 centimetre or 8-inch metal ring. This one is just plain metal. If you have a plain metal one, then you can change the colour of it using nail varnish if you want to. A couple of coats will be sufficient. You will also need beads, which must have a hole of at least 1.6 millimetres. Because when they get threaded on, they will have 4 strands of DMC Perlé running through them, so it needs to accommodate that, otherwise you won't get all the ends through the hole. It also uses a metallic thread, and I have worked with Claire's Lace, who has produced a kit for the threads and the ring and the beads. In this pattern you're going to learn how to make half stitch trails with cross stitch and twist edges, picots, false plaits, back stitches, and how to attach the beads to your lace and how to attach your lace to a ring. The picot method that is used in this tutorial is for buck's point, and a picot creates a little ring on the edge of your work. It can be used on the edge of any trail. It's very easy to do, and there are left and right hand picots. This pattern uses right hand picots, but I will show you how to work both edges, left or right. The pins are coloured red for 2 pairs and green for 1 pair, and I'm going to begin by placing a pin and the worker pair in the first red pinhole. I'm then going to take a thread which I have doubled, and it has a loop at one end. This is my first magic thread. I've got one in 4 different colours for each of the pairs. I find it easier to use 4 different colours than 4 of the same colour. When you get round to the other end, they all tend to get muddled up and knotted, so having different colours makes it easier to see which threads belong to which bobbins. With the magic thread, you want the loop in the middle of the pair, so I'm going to slide the thread underneath the left bobbin. So when you lay the thread across, it goes under this thread and then over the right hand thread. I'm then going to put the 2 ends together and leave that at the back beside one of the pins. I'm then going to take my first worker, hang that to the right hand side of my worker. So this is my worker pair and this is my new pair. I'm then going to take a second magic thread, this time it's blue, and again slide it under the left bobbin, making sure that the loop is in the middle. Join the 2 ends together and lay them to the back. Ideally you want to be one side of the pin. Try not to put the pin through the centre of your threads. You want it to the edge. That's the 2 pairs added on the red pin. I'm going to put a pin in the next green hole and hang another pair of passives on this pin. Another thread, this time pink, and again underneath the left hand bobbin, making sure that the loop is in the middle. I'm then going to join the ends together and slide them to the right of the pin. Last green pinhole, last passive pair, different coloured magic thread. There's my loop underneath the left hand bobbin, so it goes under the left and over the right. Put the two ends together and slide the thread to the back. Oop, there we go. Now these are going to be a little bit messy for the minute until you've put in your first row. And I'm going to this side and start with my worker because my zigzag line goes over to the right. This part is cross stitch, so I'm going to cross stitch through to the inner pin. And because this is metallic, I am going to tension it up. I'm now ready to work my picot. I'm just going to show you the movement of the bobbins to make the picot using a thicker thread. When you make a right hand bobbin, you will use the outside bobbin, the right hand bobbin, to twist around the pin, and when you do a left hand picot you will use the left hand bobbin to make the twist around the pin. So I'm going to first show you a right hand picot. So I lift up my right bobbin, take a pin, place it underneath the thread and then twist it towards you, and you can move the bobbin up so you're looking for that sort of movement, and then you will place the pin in a hole. If you've done it correctly, the thread that's coming from your work, if this thread will sit properly, so the thread coming from your work goes over the top of the thread around the pin, and then the thread to the bobbin is underneath. So I don't know if you can, hopefully you can see that. If I lift this thread here up, you can see that it moves the whole of the loop. So let me show you that again. So you take your pin underneath the thread and you twist, and you can move your bobbin up so you're looking for that movement. Under and twist towards you, and you'll know if you've got it right because the thread from your work should be sitting on top of the thread that leads to your bobbin. So one more time, you lift it, put the pin under the thread, lift and twist. Put your pin in your pillow, and now with the other bobbin that you haven't used, the left hand bobbin for a right hand picot, you're going to take this thread anti-clockwise around that pin. And then you're just going to pull them tight. So you can see that what happens is that you have your picot on the right hand side and your threads lead off to the left. So you've done your pin, and you take your other bobbin that hasn't been used and turn it anti-clockwise around the pin. Hopefully that makes sense. The hardest part is doing the pin. So then for a left hand picot, you will use your left hand bobbin. You will go under and twist towards you. So you go under the thread, twist towards you and pin in. And again, you'll know if you've got it right because the thread coming from your work is laying above the thread that leads to the bobbin. So you've got a loop there. I do find it's easier to do it, if you're right-handed it's easier to do it with your left hand, although it does feel a bit funny So there's my loop. So I'll show you again. So under and twist. Now once you've done the the thread around the bobbin, you're going to take the other bobbin that hasn't been used, the right hand bobbin, and this time you're going clockwise around the pin. And again, pull it tight, and you'll find you'll have the picot on the left and your threads leading off to the right. It's just remembering which bobbin goes where. So it's the right hand bobbin goes clockwise around the pin, and when you pull it tight, you've got your little picot here. So that's the movement of the picot. Before you do that, you will have put 5 twists on your thread. So let's do a proper right hand one. So I'm going to do 5 twists. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm taking my pin. For my right hand picot, I'm using my right bobbin, is going under and round. Then my other bobbin, my left hand bobbin, is going anti-clockwise. And then you can move your picots up and down. And once you've got your picot into the position you want, you can see here my nice little picot, and then you put 2 twists on. So that is the full movement of a picot. So this is our worker with no twists on it. So the first thing we're going to do is put 5 twists on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With a pin, you're going to pick up the right hand bobbin, because we're doing a right hand picot. Take it under and around. Now the picot will actually move up and down your thread. It's not quite so easy with the metallic because it's not a smooth thread, but you can still do it. So I've popped this in a pin that's away from the actual pinhole I want, and you'll see why in a moment. So there's my thread coming from my work, going above this bottom thread, around, and then this thread to my bobbin is on the bottom. I'm then going to take my left hand bobbin and go anti-clockwise around that pin. So I'm just going to place it, and I'm not going to tension up too much at the moment. I'm now going to lift my threads up, lift the pin out of the pinhole and slide it up the threads into the pinhole it needs to be in. Give everything a quick tighten, and then add your 2 twists. Now one of the benefits of making your picot down here as opposed to up here is that when you take that bobbin that goes around the pin, once you've got the pinhole in, it has a tendency of catching on any of the other pins that are around. So when I did this first time, I had done a quarter of this work, only to look back and find that my first 2 picots had caught up on the previous pin. So being able to do it away from your pinhole and all your other pins and sliding it into place is a lot easier than having to undo half your work. So we've done our first picot, we've tensioned up, we're going to cross stitch back to the other side. Normally when I reach the end of a trail here, I will put 2 twists on. Now this time I'm using a really thick thread, so I need to accommodate that thicker thread with my twists. And this loop is where you're going to sew the ends in for your strips, your trails. So I'm going to put 3 twists on. So that's 1, 2, 3. right bobbin over left, and I'm going to pin up. And again, because it's metallic, I am just going to tension up gently. It doesn't need much tensioning, but because it is a rough thread, it is easier to tension it up. And I'm just going to sort out my naughty bobbins. Okay, so I'm going to cross stitch back to the other side. And I've reached a point where I can put a picot on. So I've just gently held on to my left, my passives, and I've tensioned up my worker. I'm going to do 5 twists. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Take my pin and my right hand bobbin under and round. Put it in a pin away from my work. Take my left hand bobbin and take it anti-clockwise around that pin. Lift my threads up, slide the picot. You can slide the picot up and down. Lift my pin and slide it into position. I'm then going to put a bit of tension on those threads and 2 twists. Cross stitch back to the other side. And I need 3 twists because of the thicker thread. You can see where you need to sew the pairs in. There'll be 3 pinholes for each of these trails. And I'm now back to the other side in cross stitch. Just tension up gently. I'm just going to release. This is the joys of working with metallics. And I will show you why I tend to do my picots away from my pinholes, if this will let me. Okay, so 5 twists. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pin under and towards you. And this time I'm going to place it in my pinhole. I'm then going to take my other thread and take it anti-clockwise. Now, one of the things that can happen is that you can catch that second pin, which then means that you end up with this long loop here, and it's not the neat picot that you want. So you want to make sure, if you are putting it straight in the pinhole, you want to make sure that you are making sure that that thread goes around the pin, not around the next pin over. And 2 twists. Then back across. And here I haven't quite tensioned up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back, take my 2 twists off and just give, there we are. It will generally be the bobbin that has gone around the pin first. So I've taken my 2 twists off and just pulled that slightly to really tighten it up. 2 twists back on and cross stitch to the other side. I'm still doing my 3 twists because I'm still working pinholes where there will be a sewing. 3 twists and pin up. Cross stitch back. 5 twists. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Under and over. Other bobbin anti-clockwise around the pin. Lift it up. Can you see how I just slide it up? Lift the pin. Replace it where it should be. tension everything up and 2 twists.